Uryu Ishida has been a character I've been very invested in since the Thousand Year Blood War began. Back when Kubo was writing the manga, I was deeply excited about the prospect of Ishida being given the spotlight for the first time since the Soul Society arc. In the manga, Kubo didn't really get the chance to do all he'd like with Uryu's character, and I have no shame in admitting that Uryu's character arc fell rather flat. But now, with the advent of the Thousand Year Blood War anime, Uryu's entire character arc has a new lease on life. Kubo's approach to his character feels fresh and exciting, his personality feels new and vibrant, and the mystery around his motives is deeply captivating. All that is great and all, but Kubo did something especially surprising in Bleach Thousand Year Blood War during Uryu's battle with Ichigo and Renji. He gave Uryu a completely new form, and in this video, I want to talk about it. So let's discuss Uryu Ishida's complete holy form. A form I'm calling the Arrow of God. In order to properly contextualize this, I want to talk about Uryu's battle with Ichigo, and then I'll talk about Uryu's battle with Renji. After Uryu prevents Ichigo from interfering with Yuha, who is attempting to absorb Mimihagi, Ichigo and Uryu have their first outright fight since early Bleach. This is one of my favorite moments in Thousand Year Blood War so far. Not merely because of how great of a moment it is for the two characters, but for what it signifies for the anime of Thousand Year Blood War. You don't know what Kubo and Taguchi are going to do with this story. You don't know what they'll change, what they'll remove, and what they'll include. You just don't know. And I love that excitement. I'm reliving Bleach in a unique way. But back to the fight. Even though the anime made it very clear that Ichigo in his Shikai-based form was stronger than Uryu in his, Uryu still showcased impressive fights and proficiency. Ichigo tries to close the distance between the two of them to try to negate Uryu's long-range attacks. That was a brilliant move on the part of Ichigo, but Uryu was smart and skilled enough to counter it. Uryu decided to forego the use of his bow and started firing arrows without the use of a bow construct. He fired a flurry of arrows using his Lichtregen attack and destroyed the ground beneath Ichigo. He then proceeded to fire at Ichigo from below until he landed a direct blow, but Ichigo blocked the arrow with a blute of his own before countering with a Getsuga. Once he's pinned down, Uryu decides to raise the stakes of the battle. Energy and aura start to envelop him, and he explodes within a torrent of power as he activates the Sclaverai before ending it off with a reveal of his complete holy form. Now usually, the other Quincy tend to name what their complete holy form is. From Robert Aquatron's Grimaniel, the Walk of God, to Candace's Thunder of God called Barbariel, the Blaze of God belonging to Bambietta is Zophiel, and Giselle is the Death of God. There is a certain kind of language used to address each complete holy form. And so, keeping with that idea, I decided to call Uryu's complete holy form the Arrow of God. Uryu develops two wings made of blue reishi. He develops gauntlets on his two wrists and another pair on his leg. From there, he's able to summon a flurry of smaller arrowheads that surround him. Standing at a safe distance, he's able to control these numerous arrowheads with his hand. The key thing about this power that we've learned so far is that each arrowhead functions like a homing missile. If you've seen a Gundam show, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It will curve and rotate as needed in order to achieve its target. Furthermore, each arrowhead has the ability to fire off projectiles of its own, so you can imagine how annoying of an opponent Uryu has become with this new power, and Ichigo was forced to bear the brunt of that. Uryu launches countless arrowheads at Ichigo, who begins to parry, block, and evade them, but in a closed-off space, Ichigo can only do so much. He's overcome and he gets hit multiple times before a blast knocks his smaller blade out of his hand. Ichigo quickly rolls back and grabs his blade before using the Gezuka Tensho to blow a hole in the wall in order to get away. Uryu at this point has not moved from where he's been. Think of his Arrow of God as a Senbon Zakura-like ability, just not as many petals, and instead of cutting you, Uryu is trying to pierce you with projectile blasts. Ichigo during this phase of the battle cannot get close enough to Uryu to do any real damage. He's having to fly through the air, dodging projectiles from all sides. He uses a Gezuka Tensho to detonate a few of them, but more just spawn out of nowhere. I imagine that Uryu can spawn as many arrowheads as his spiritual pressure will allow, and for fighters of this level, they basically don't run out. So honestly, just assume that Uryu can keep dishing out these arrowheads without breaking a sweat. Now, there's a moment where Ichigo finally breaks through the initial formation and tries to charge towards Uryu, and you see Uryu standing in the sky, but his arrows on this occasion are spinning around him. In one instance, they're spinning around him with him in the center, and then in another instance, they're behind him still spinning as he fires them. This reminded me of Devil May Cry's Virgil. Virgil is able to summon these swords that spin around him, and they act as a defensive ability because if you get too close, the spinning swords will cut you, and he can launch them at his opponents from afar. That's what I believe Uryu's ability works like as well. He puts his opponents under pressure by overwhelming them from afar, but if by some chance they manage to get close enough, these summoning arrows, in Uryu's case, surround him and will protect him from some attacks. Another pretty effective move of Uryu's is that once he gives the command, one arrowhead breaks into multiple arrowheads that surround Ichigo and form a dome. From that dome, Ichigo's movements become restricted and Uryu detonates it along with Ichigo who's caught inside it. The explosion forms the image of a Quincy cross as Uryu's attacks typically always do. From there, Uryu uses a move one step beyond the last. Calling forth his numerous arrows, he coalesces them into a big bow that forms the shape of a Quincy cross. The bow is probably 3 to 4 times as big as his body, and from there he draws his reishi arrow and fires an attack he calls the Sternstab. Each arm of the Quincy cross fires a reishi beam at Ichigo who counters with his Getsuga Jujisho. Even though Uryu's Sternstab does not overcome Ichigo's Getsuga, I don't believe the attack is anything to scoff at. At the end of their battle, Uryu crafted a special arrow that seemed to appear from his gauntlet and formed a uniquely designed bow. We're not clear on if this arrow specifically had any special abilities. I genuinely have no idea, but it succeeded in piercing a hole right through Ichigo's midsection. I understand that Ichigo did not want to fight and basically left himself open, but still, I think it's a pretty significant achievement that this arrow, and not any other attack, but this one, was the arrow that finally broke Ichigo's skin and dealt the finishing blow. Moving forward, in the latest episode of Bleach, Uryu had yet another encounter, and this time it was with Renji. Their battle begins with Renji closing the distance with Uryu, the same idea Ichigo had to give him the upper hand. But instead of releasing his bow and firing the arrows with his bare hands, Uryu instead reinforced his bow and used it as a melee weapon. Renji responds by unleashing his Bankai at point blank range, and Uryu and he continue their clash. To no one's surprise, at least not me, Renji in his Bankai form is stronger than Uryu in his base form, but Uryu still puts up a hell of a fight. After Renji unleashed a point-blank Zagatepo at Uryu, Uryu called on the power of his BLEACH to defend himself and proceeded to tap into his complete holy form once again, only this time, he did not combine his complete holy form with his Sclaverai. You see, Quincy's have the option to tap into their complete holy form or combine it with the Sclaverai to attain a more powerful version of their complete holy form. Uryu here against Renji first enters his Vollständisch, but he doesn't stack Sclaverai on top of it. You can visibly tell the difference between this and the form he used against Ichigo because he doesn't have the gauntlets on his arms and ankles, and the insignia on his chest is also no longer there. Once transformed, Uryu forms more of his arrowheads, lines them up in a row horizontally, ushers them into a circular shape, compresses them into a ball of energy, and then forms a bigger arrow with it, which he then fires at Renji. Renji takes the attack head on, but the velocity of the arrow is too great and it ricochets past Renji and unleashes a huge blast into the night sky. From there, Uryu overwhelms Renji with an onslaught of arrows which push Renji back. At this point, Renji lays a trap on Uryu and restricts his movement before using his most powerful technique, Zagai Zeko. This attack destroys a huge chunk of the city, and power scaling wise, I am able to conclude that Renji in his Bankai form is still stronger than Uryu's base complete holy form. Seeing that this is not enough, Uryu then activates Sclaverai to replenish his energy before using his most powerful version of his Arrow of God Vollständisch. This time, he's got the gauntlets on his arms and ankles and he has the insignia on his chest. Now in his most powerful form, Uryu unleashes another huge attack called the Feather Zwinger. 5 unique looking arrows shoot into the sky above Renji and fire into the ground, enclosing Renji in a coffin-like space. They then release energy and stab him through the midsection before swirling him around while absorbing his Ryotsu. As long as you're caught within Feather Zwinger's confines, your Ryotsu will be drained until you are unable to retain your Shikai or your Bankai. Renji loses all of his energy but forces himself to call on his Bankai regardless. He's only able to manifest the bone part, and Uryu forms another unique looking arrow which he fires into Renji's Hakusui Soul Sleep and defeats him. So in summation, Uryu Ishida's complete holy form, the Arrow of God, is a battle technique predicated mainly on keeping his opponents at a fair distance and overwhelming them from afar. Inside a closed space with limited room for mobility, Uryu's complete holy form will tear you apart. In an open area, the homing attacks restrict your movement while he's able to set traps that detonate upon impact. For his big moves, we know he has his Sterner Stab and his Feather Zwinger, and all of this is without the use of his Shrift. If you include the antithesis, Uryu could switch out his position with any of the arrows he's firing to attack you instantaneously. He can rebound the damage inflicted on himself back at you, thereby escaping death, and who knows what else he can do with his powers. Uryu is honestly one of the strongest Bleach characters now, and it's all because of this anime adaptation. So let me know what you think about Uryu's Arrow of God in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next Rebirth video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out some other videos on the channel, guys. And if you made it this far, I just want to tell you, thank you very much for your support. Thank you very much for being with me throughout this entire journey. And if you're here and you're not subscribed and you made it through this video and you feel like you enjoy the content I give, you feel like you like this video, please hit that subscribe button because there's a lot more where that came from. Take care, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll see you soon. Peace out.